We're less than 3 weeks from opening day, and let's talk some Brewers. I'm Hunter Baumgardt. Welcome in to a Monday night edition of the Hunter Baumgardt Show. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether it be on YouTube or on Facebook at Hunter B on Air on all the socials, and then the Hunter Baumgardt Sports Facebook page here on this Monday evening. We've done this every single week here for the last, 3 or 4 weeks, and decided let's keep this thing rolling and talk about all the headlines surrounding the Milwaukee Brewers as we get closer and closer to opening day. Believe it or not, 2 weeks from tonight, there's a baseball game at American Family Field. Now, it's an exhibition game because they're playing 2 exhibition games, the Monday and Tuesday of opening week, against the Cincinnati Reds at American Family Field. 6:40 for the Monday night game, 4:10 for the Tuesday game. And then they have off Wednesday before opening day against the Chicago White Sox on Thursday. Who's going to start on opening day? We'll get into that discussion here tonight. Talk about the schedule? We'll talk about the schedule. We haven't really done a deep dive into the schedule yet on these shows. So we're going to do that tonight because we're inching closer, and a couple of things for you to watch out for when it comes to maybe some games you'd like to attend, some stretches they're going to be on the road, some stretches they're going to be at home. When do they play the Cubs first? When do they play divisional opponents and things like that? We'll get to that coming up here in a little while as well. The World Baseball Classic is now in full swing. The World Baseball Classic is rolling right now. In fact, the U.S. and Mexico about to square off, both 2-0 in their pool, and that's about to start in Houston. I've actually got that on in the background so I can keep tabs on it. Bryce Terang back in the lineup tonight. He has been outstanding for Team USA, and he's back in the lineup at second base, batting ninth. He started the first game, was outstanding, and then was not in the lineup the second game, but then he is back tonight for Game 3 of the World Baseball Classic. Of course, taking your comments all night long as well, whether it be on Facebook, on Hunter Baumgardt Sports, or on YouTube, again, at Hunter B on Air. Make sure to like and subscribe. And then, of course, we've got our Who's Hot and Who's Not segment coming up as far as who's tearing it up at spring training. Hint, plays first base, and he homered today. We'll get to that in a little while. And then who is struggling a little bit, but should we be worried? I don't think so too much. And we're going to get to the Brewers pitching injuries and get to the starting rotation and where all of these pitchers are fitting into the puzzle pieces as we move closer and closer to opening day. So all that to come. Want to start with the news of the day. We like to start with the news of the day here on the show. And I want to start with something that came out this afternoon from Adam McCalvey of MLB.com saying that Logan Henderson is dealing with some mild elbow soreness, reported feeling better today, which is really good. But it's something to watch because he had elbow inflammation during the second half of last season. So you obviously don't want to start the season that way, but we'll see. I have a feeling that he is, if he's reported feeling better today, you like how that sounds. Is he part of that opening day rotation anyway? Not so sure. Would maybe he be a long man in the bullpen? Maybe. We'll get to the candidates for those positions coming up here in a little while. But just a little bit, a little bit of concern there for Logan Henderson, especially when you deal with an elbow. You've dealt with the elbow before, and now you're dealing with the elbow again. So we'll see what happens here with the Milwaukee Brewers. And like I said, taking your comments all night long. I want to start after. So that's the news of today. The Brewers played the Dodgers. They fell 4-3. Jake Bauers with the home run. We're going to get to him in the Who's Hot and Who's Not segment. But I want to start with a couple of pitchers that have been dazzling. I think that's a good word. Kurt Hogue of the Journal-Sentinel used that. He's down in Arizona. We're hopefully going to get him on the show here in the next couple of weeks before opening day. But he called Kyle Harrison dazzling, and Brandon Sproat has been impressive as well. Let's start with Kyle Harrison. Again, these are the two pitchers the Brewers got back in the deals this over the last month of the offseason, really, right? The Freddie Peralta deal which netted you Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams, and then of course the Caleb Durbin deal, which netted you Kyle Harrison, Shane Drowan, and then David Hamilton. Kyle Harrison is kind of the gem of that Durbin deal. I think I've said this before. I said that within the few days after the trade happened, for the trade to work out for the Brewers, Kyle Harrison has to be a really solid pitcher, in my opinion, for the Milwaukee Brewers. I think he has the stuff for it. He has a really high ceiling, and that's why you acquire a guy like that and you put him with the Brewers pitching lab and the Brewers pitching coaching staff, and you're in a really good spot. I think he has to be that, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the rotation, I think, for that trade to work out. That's a high bar, maybe 3, but just a consistent starter in that rotation. And to be honest, I think he's got the stuff, and he's starting to show it already in spring training. He went just 3 innings against the Mariners yesterday, which isn't just 3 innings in spring training. You're building him up, obviously, but it's just 3 innings when you look at how many strikeouts he had, and he had 8 strikeouts yesterday. He had 4 strikeouts actually in 1 inning, and you're like, Hunter, there's only 3 outs in an inning. Well, one got past the catcher, and so that was technically a strikeout. Runner reached first base, and then he was able to get another strikeout. So in his 6 innings so far, 10 strikeouts, 3 walks. His other appearance came against Great Britain earlier in the week in that exhibition game. So if you look, because I got a little confused, I was looking at Kyle Harrison's stats, and if you look at his stats, technically it's only going to show 1 game because that game against Great Britain was technically an exhibition. It didn't count as a spring training game. So make sure if you're looking at stats, you're like, Kyle Harrison, I thought he pitched in 2 games. Yeah, he pitched in 2, but technically only 1 counted, and that was Sunday's game. 4 whiffs on that slurve he's got, and 3 whiffs on 4 swings with that new kick changeup. The fastball has been his go-to throughout his career. It's always been about, can he get the secondary pitches going when it comes to Kyle Harrison? And if anybody's going to allow Kyle Harrison to have really good secondary pitches, it's going to be the Milwaukee Brewers, right? With what they do with their pitching when it comes to acquiring talent, making them into the best talent that they can be. So I think that is a significant. That's a significant when you look at 4 whiffs on the slurve, 3 whiffs on 4 swings on the new kick changeup. Yes, it's spring training, but it's good signs, and he's obviously working on that. And so you like what you see there, a couple of stats that show that, but also how about what the manager said after the game? Pat Murphy was asked by reporters there if he thinks Harrison, is ready to be on a major league team. And Pat Murphy's like, yeah. So he thinks he's major league ready. Obviously he's played in the majors before, but it's more so saying, do you think this guy can open with the club? And Pat Murphy didn't even let the question finish. I think Kurt Hogue asked that one. So when we did our starting rotation prediction last week, I said he was in the starting rotation. I still think he's in the starting rotation. And I am even more sure that he is in the starting rotation now. And with the Quinn Priester injury, which we'll get to in a little while. And just because I think, and we can get to it now, when you look at Quinn Priester, when you look at this rotation, we'll get to the full picture again here in a moment. But I just think he is a guy who they are going to want to work out, right? Like, you acquire Brandon Sproat, you acquire Kyle Harrison. When these guys are looking this good in spring training, Brandon Sproat, 7 strikeouts in 4 1/3 so far. And the biggest thing that we're hearing out of camp is he's becoming a pitcher. And that's what the Brewers do. They turn these guys into the best that they can be. And what I love about what Brandon Sproat has said at spring training, and what a lot of these new guys say when they get into the Brewers organization, is when they talk to Chris Hook, when they talk to the coaching staff doesn't come to them right away and says, you need to change this, and that, and this, and that, and this, and that. It's a lot of, we'll get to know you, just go do what you do, and then we can tweak some things as time goes on and make you a better pitcher. But they want to see who these pitchers are to start. And I think that's such a good strategy, because if you go and you watch tape, right? Easily, Chris Hook could go watch tape of Kyle Harrison, and I'm sure maybe as a tip or two, right, to start when they first meet these guys. But it sounds like overall, not really. They just go and they pitch, and then, okay, now that we see what you like, now that we see what you do, how can we adjust things, maneuver things? If we need to, add, subtract, whatever it is, we can do that, but not until I have a full view of what you do. And it sounds like they've done that with Kyle Harrison and Brandon Sproat, and Sproat's becoming more of a pitcher, right? And that term can be used a lot, but it's more so the kind of the cerebral side of the game almost, right? So, and one other thing that I wanted to talk about with Brandon Sproat is, and I thought this was really interesting on the Brewer Territory podcast, brand new podcast, by the way. If you're a Brewer fan, you should check that out as well. Kurt Hogue of the Journal Sentinel hosts it with Corey Knable, former Brewers closer. And one thing that Kurt said on that podcast that caught my ear was when Chris Hook talked to Kurt about Brandon Sproat. Kurt said he's never really seen Chris Hook light up about a young pitcher, a newly acquired young pitcher, like he did about Brandon Sproat. And this is, and people have said, Jack Stern, who covers the Brewers for Brewer Fanatic, has also said he kind of thought Sproat was the gem of that Freddie Peralta deal. These pitchers have some high ceilings, and we knew that the Brewers had really good pitching depth coming into this season, right? That's what we all been talking about. We'll get to the slide with all the names and all the faces here in a moment, with all of the people that could be in this starting rotation, all the players in it. But I think overall, it comes down to what the Brewers can do with this newly acquired talent and what they have been doing in spring training and the potential that these guys have. And what freedom it must give Matt Arnold to say, I can go get a guy that's not even maybe close to his finished product, but maybe he's shown really good signs, like Sproat has, like Harrison has. I mean, Sproat, one of the top prospects in the Mets system. Harrison has been in the big leagues, was the number one prospect of the Giants system when he debuted in 2023. Matt Arnold has that freedom to say, I can go and get these guys, and I can bring them into this organization, and we are going to get the best out of them because of the staff that we have. And as a general manager and as a president of baseball operations, I can imagine that's pretty freeing. And I'd love to, maybe I can ask him that when I get a chance to talk to him when the team comes to Milwaukee. I just feel like that must be, it's just so exciting because you then have a chance to do that. So yeah, what does all this mean for the rotation? That's the big question. And I see some comments coming in. We'll get to those here in just a moment. I think it's, when it comes to the rotation, so you look at this, okay? Because this has changed a little bit since we talked about this last, which might have been 2 weeks ago when we put up the graphic and we looked through this. My three spots that were locked were Brandon Woodruff, Quinn Priester, and Jacob Misiorowski. However, as we know, Quinn Priester has that wrist injury that's kind of went into his arm, and they may even see a specialist for it. I think Quinn Priester starts the year on the injured list. But hopefully it's not too long term. Hopefully it's a shorter IL stint, maybe that 15-day. So my locks for the rotation, well, I mean, Pat Murphy has locks as well because he announced that Chad Patrick and Jacob Misiorowski are both going to be in the starting rotation to start the year. That's 2 out of 5 spots. And then I have Brandon Woodruff in there as well. I tend to think we're talking opening day rotation. We're not necessarily talking opening day because I think, and we'll look at the schedule a little later too, but the schedule sets up where, you can be a little lenient when it comes to not necessarily needing, especially, 6 guys. You can be a little lenient with your starters. You can, you have a lot of off days, basically is what I'm saying, to start the season. Within the first 26 days, you have 5 off days. So that could play into, okay, who makes the starting rotation, who makes the bullpen then, and how they go about things, because pitchers are going to be able to get some extra rest. I think Brandon Woodruff makes a starting rotation. Is he the opening day starter? If I were to guess right now, oh man, I'm like 50-50 on this. The thing with this is clearly, and Brandon Woodruff just said this after his first Cactus League game, I believe it was Saturday against the Angels. And he said, opening day is great and all, but nobody remembers opening day after opening day. It's all about what you do in August, September, October. It just seems like the Brewers and him have this mentality that we'd way rather prioritize later in the season than early in the season. So who is going to be that opening day starter? I have a feeling Brandon Woodruff, I mean, they're paying the guy more than they've paid a pitcher in 1 year ever. You got to get as many starts as you can, I would think. But you also don't want to absolutely rush him either. You got to be careful because you want him later in the season. So I still have a little bit of feeling that he's going. I mean, they have time to ramp him up. I think because I think Brandon Woodruff is still the opening day starter unless told otherwise. But I also think there's a legitimate chance that Jacob Mizorowski is the opening day starter. I think it's between Woody and Mizorowski. If Woody's healthy, if Woody's ready to go, and he's healthy right now, it's just a matter of if he's ramped up and they want to put him out there opening day, he will be the opening day starter. However, if they're like, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, it's one game. We want Brandon Woodruff to start 5 days later instead. And he's instead going to start against the Rays, in the second or third game of that second series of the season, because we want just 5 more days. We think long term it's going to be better. They're going to do that. And they're going to be, they're going to be like, all right, Jacob Mizorowski, here's the ball on opening day. So don't be surprised if that happens. But I have a feeling there's still a chance Woodruff is the opening day starter right now. If I were to make who is Hunter gonna pick? Again, I lean a little towards Woodruff, but it's like 51-49. It's so close right now because clearly the Brewers want to prioritize and Jacob Mizorowski wants to prioritize making sure he's ready for the end of the season. So we'll see. But looking back at that, so let's say the Brewers have those 3 spots, okay? Because I think even if Brandon Woodruff doesn't start opening day, he'll be in the rotation probably, I would think, second, third week of the year. Okay, so you have those 3 spots. Then who else gets it? Quinn Priester is likely on the IL. I think Kyle Harrison, I would think is the 4th guy there. I would be kind of at this point a little surprised if he doesn't make it. Brandon Sproat is slowly becoming another name where I would be interested and intrigued and think he has a little bit of a chance here. But also the guys at the end there, Aaron Ashby, DL Hall on the right, they're building them up as starters right now. Now, not that they're going to be starters, but they're stretching them out where they can have a chance to be starters. Now, Pat Murphy has said in the past, like right before spring training or right around the beginning of spring training, I remember him saying, I loved Aaron Ashby in the role he was in last year. Now, he did a lot of openers. he was opening a lot of games in that NLCS, but he was also that middle relief role, and he really did well in that role. And I think he is a big weapon, really, in that role, in that middle relief, even late relief, whether 6th, 7th inning, come in a high leverage, get that lefty out of the pen and let him loose. I really like him in that role. However, if I were to say, okay, one of those is going to make the rotation out of Ashby and Hall, I think it'd be Ashby. So, and then Logan Henderson, like I mentioned, with a little bit of that elbow soreness. Robert Gasser is, I would think, still a major league pitcher. Angel Serpa, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think he's probably in the bullpen. But I think Kyle Harrison's your 4, and then boy, the 5th spot is wide open. I think Sproat's in the running. I think Henderson's in the running. I think Gasser's in the running. I think Ashby and Hall are in the running. But then the question becomes, okay, so you do that. Who then goes to the bullpen? Because I would still think like Logan Henderson, if he's healthy and doesn't make the starting rotation, I would think he goes to AAA. I would think Gasser is the same way. I would think those guys go to AAA so they can continue to build up as starters. And then if need be, they come up whenever they're needed. So I am fascinated to see what they do with this starting rotation. And knowing the Brewers, they're going to mix match. They're going to have different rotations throughout the year. The April rotation is probably not going to be the May rotation. And the May rotation is probably not going to be the June rotation. And then, you're going to get to the end of the year and you're going to be like, who? Now, I don't think you're going to have as much of who started like you did Alvin Rodriguez, Tyler Alexander, guys who were starting early in the season last year. I don't think that is necessarily going to be like it was last year. Partly because you don't have the injuries you had last year, but I do think that starting rotation is going to change throughout the year. And you're going to have, I would think that almost every guy on this screen is going to start a game for the Brewers this year. At some point. That's just how it goes usually. I mean, you look at this 3, 6, 9, that's 11 guys. I think they had 17 starters last year. 17 different guys start a game. So don't be surprised if a lot of those different guys make a start. One thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the pitchers, when it comes to the staff in general, and I know a lot of people are saying, wow, man, there's a lot of injuries pitching wise to this team. Not so fast with that, because they're, especially compared to last year, knock on wood, they're relatively healthy. I mean, you look at different teams and they can just have, they can be decimated sometimes with injuries. Brandon Woodruff is building up. He doesn't have an injury, but he's building up, and I would be surprised if he doesn't pitch in the first week or two of the season. Okay, so that's Brandon Woodruff. Quinn Priester, it looks like, is your main injury of spring training so far. This is a guy who, might see a specialist, is only throwing. He's not throwing off a mound right now. That is concerning. He, in all likelihood, will start the year on the IL. Okay, that's one down. Henderson has a little, elbow soreness. Okay. But that's a couple guys. Remember last year we showed this, I think it was last week. These are all the guys who in the first 10 days of the season were not available. And a lot of those guys were not available because of injuries, sustained in spring training, or maybe long-term injuries like Woodruff and Gasser. But Ashby, Myers, Hall, all guys who were hurt during spring training. Savale and Cortez got hurt in the first week of the season. And that's why the Brewers have went fairly slow with the way they're building up their pitchers this year. There's two reasons why. One reason is because of the list I just showed you, that they want to make sure that everybody is as healthy as they can be, right? You have a slower buildup. It's clear, and they've talked about it. The pitchers have talked about it. The coaching staff has talked about it. Pat Murphy's talked about it. They are being deliberately slower with how they build guys up this season, this spring training, because of the way they were decimated with injuries last year. But also because they had, if you think about it, they really had one less month, 3 less weeks of the offseason than other teams. I mean, some of those teams ended, September 28th or whatever, and the Brewers were playing till mid-October. That's a significant difference when you talk about training, when you talk about buildup. Jared Koenig was talking about that because Koenig has not been having a great spring training so far as his ERA. Now, you don't look necessarily at ERA in spring training, and his first 2 to 3 outings weren't great, but he's gotten better in the last couple. 1 inning, 1 strikeout, no runs yesterday for Jared Koenig. He's in my who's not when it comes to who's hot and who's not spring training right now. But he talked about how the shorter offseason could be why his velocity isn't where it usually is. But he also said he gets stronger as the season goes on. His timing gets better, and his velocity usually ticks up in July and August better than it does March, April, May, which makes sense. But so I just think it's a couple of reasons why they're building these guys up slower. The shorter off season, which probably lends itself to, okay, there's a little more risk here for injury. But then also, okay, look what happened last year, right? So look what happened last year. And last year, there were a lot of injuries. And so we need to keep perspective on this, because this really hasn't been a ton of injuries. It's only one main one right now. So now if Brandon Woodruff can't go for the first month of the season or something, which again, I don't expect, then okay, then we're inching closer to last year territory. But again, you look at that list and look at how many, okay, Woodruff on track to be healthy. Gasser on track to be healthy. Ashby on track to be healthy. And of course, Myers, Savale, Cortez, all not there, but you replace them with Sprode and Harrison and Serpa. All right. And then DL Hall on track to be healthy. Nick Mears, you replace him with whoever you want in that bullpen. and Jose Quintana was signed late because they were like, we're losing pitchers left and right here. We're going to need someone. And then, of course, they also traded for Quinn Priester. So I think the Brewers are in a good spot pitching, and that's why they went out in the offseason and got a bunch of pitching depth. All right, want to hear your comments here. Got one from Matt. Let's get Matt here. Of all the new faces the Brewers have acquired via trade, who makes the opening day roster? That's a good question, Matt. So I guess our list goes, right? Jet Williams, Brandon Sproat in the Freddie Peralta deal, and then Durbin was traded for Kyle Harrison, Shane Drowan, and David Hamilton. I think David Hamilton's basically a lock. I think he's your utility guy off the bench. That's what I think David Hamilton is. And he's got actually tied for the second most at-bats in spring training. So they wanted to see what he can do. And so he's played in 9 games, and he has a 280 batting average right now. He and actually Jesus Amade are tied for second in at-bats when it comes to how many at-bats players have on the team. Luis Lara is first, by the way. A little fun fact for you. Yeah, quiz your friends at home. But I do think David Hamilton's a lock. Then it comes to, I think Kyle Harrison is on the roster, and I think he's in the starting rotation. And then Brandon Sproat is on the iffy side. I don't know if Brandon Sproat makes the opening day roster. I think you see him throughout the season at some point, because I think this guy's going to be a factor when it comes to the Brewers pitching. Maybe not even just this year, but in years to come. So if I were to say 2 guys who I'm pretty, very, very sure, I can't say it's a lock, but I would be as close to a lock as you can get: Kyle Harrison and David Hamilton. 2 guys in that Durbin deal who would be, I think Shane Drowan is probably a bullpen arm down the road, and maybe sooner rather than later, because he's been pitching actually quite well in spring training. But I think he starts at AAA. I think Jet Williams starts at AAA. I think he is a guy who can be helpful in the future. I just don't know if it's now. He's missed a significant amount of time as well. At spring training, looks like he's coming back, but I think Jet Williams starts at AAA, kind of like Durbin did last year. We forget that Durbin started at AAA last year. So I think Williams is at AAA, Drowan is at AAA, Sproat is on the borderline, and then Harrison and Hamilton make the opening day roster. Of the 5, that's what I'd say. So I think you kind of have tiers, right? You have Hamilton and Harrison in one tier. Pretty sure they make it. Sproat in the middle tier. And then I think Williams and Drowan start with the Sounds in AAA Nashville. So again, definitely get those comments in. Tom, the Journal Sentinel, an article about how the Brewers are the shortest team in the league. Do you think there's anything to that, or just a weird, insignificant stat? I don't know if it's short players specifically, but I think there is a formula for what the Brewers acquire and the talent they acquire and the types of players they want. Why? Because the Brewers are in a different market, obviously, than the Dodgers, right? Than the Yankees, right? They can't go and win a World Series and then sign Kyle Tucker in the next offseason like the Dodgers did. Right? So that's just not how the Brewers go. So if you're not going to get those guys, and who demands lots of money on the open market usually? Usually it's guys who hit a lot of home runs. The Brewers can't necessarily get those guys. So how are they going to score runs? Well, they're going to score runs in a different way. Yes, you want some pop. And if you can afford it, and if you can trade for it, by all means, go for it. Maybe Rengifo provides a little more pop than Durbin. We'll see over there at third base. But I think it's more so the type of player the Brewers like to acquire. So I don't think it's insignificant, because I think it shows what the Brewers do when they look at what talent they want in their team and how they want to build their team. I think not only is it because they're in a smaller market and they maybe have to win different and have proven that you can win different. I also think that manager Pat Murphy is a significant part of that because I think this is how he likes to build a team. And I also think it's possible that the teams around baseball, maybe especially small markets, are going to start to copy it a little bit. A little bit of copycat going on with Pat Murphy's style because he's been able to win by not hitting the long ball. And of course, you need some long ball. You need a Yelich in there. Hopefully Garrett Mitchell can provide pop. Heck, Jake Bauers as well. Andrew Vaughn, right? You need some boppers in there. There's no doubt about it. You can't have a full team of guys that just are speed and get on base. But the Brewers are as close to proving that you can as you can get right now with guys like Caleb Durbin last year, but then Sal Frelick and obviously other guys, Jet Williams that they acquired and everything like that. So I think it's more so. I think there's a little something to it in the fact that this is the type of talent they acquire, and those guys sometimes happen to be smaller guys with a little chip on their shoulder, which I think Pat Murphy loves. And that obviously worked last year. We'll see if it works this year. And I think it's more so that rather than, okay, he's 5'9", we really like that guy, right? It's less about size necessarily, because I think in some ways, maybe football is more size. Not that you don't want to, we all heard about how Sal Frelick put on weight one off season, or how, Jared Koenig is down some weight, or whatever it happens to be, right? That is significant for how those players play. But I think it more so that the smaller guy can have success at the major league level, where clearly the smaller guy can't always have success at the NFL level. So just a couple of thoughts there. Matt, question here: with a plethora of shortstops in an absolutely loaded farm system, do you see Cooper Pratt moving positions, maybe third or first? Build wise, he looks more like a corner infielder. That's a really good question, Matt. I feel like the Brewers are tipping their hand a little here in spring training, and I'll tell you why. When you've seen Pratt and Madej start, Jesus Madej, who actually got reassigned to minor league camp today, so you might see a little less of him. We'll see. He might come over and still play some games from minor league camp. We'll see. But he spent all this time, almost a month, with the major league club. And got a lot of experience. It was fun to see him in the same lineup. Of course, Jesus Madej is the top prospect in the Brewers system, one of the top prospects in baseball. And we saw some of why this spring, especially on the offensive side. But when Pratt and Madej were in the same lineup, Pratt was at short and Madej was at second. And it all depends on timing. Like, it depends on if Madej and Pratt come up at the same time, which I think Pratt's going to come up sooner. Then, okay, what's going on with Joey Ortiz? How is he standing there at short? Where's Brock Wilken in all this? Because Wilken, I think, is actually more your corner infielder, third, first type of guy. So I think Pratt right now looks to maybe be more of your shortstop. And Madej might be over there at second. Madej's defense is something that he's continuing and admittedly continuing to work on. Madej is ranked highly because of his offense. Now, is his defense awful? No, but it's going to take some work. And defensively in the infield, you want your best defender at shortstop. So I do wonder if ultimately down the road we see Pratt at short, Madej at second, and Wilken at third or first. And that's kind of your infield. Of course, then you say, okay, where's Jet Williams, right? Absolutely. Yeah, where's Jet Williams? Now, could you see Pratt at third and Jet at short and maybe Wilken at first? I mean, we're talking years down the road, because you also have a Platinum Glove winner and a guy who's going to be batting for Team USA in a few minutes in Bryce Terang at second base, and you'd love to lock him up long term. So that takes that out of the equation too. But I think Pratt's going to make it to the big leagues before Madej, and then I think he maybe goes shortstop. but obviously they're going to make room for Madej. They're going to see what they have in the guy. It's not like Pratt's going to, keep him out of a job. But I also think Madej would be maybe best suited at second base. But what does that do with Bryce Terang? So all that to say, kind of to sum that up, I think Pratt, if you're coming between Pratt and Madej, I think Pratt's more maybe your defensive shortstop as it looks right now. Not to say Madej can't really improve his defense and make that happen. I know he's by trade a shortstop, but I feel like maybe he could be more of a second. I mean, Luis Pena as well. But also Cooper Pratt could definitely move around. Like I definitely think it's possible that he moves around. I just think it's interesting that when those two have played together, Pratt and Madej's been at second and Pratt's been at short. So something I've noticed, but great question, Matt. Absolutely. And a question we'll probably answer, I would think, heading into 2027, 2028, depending on how this year goes. We could see Pratt at some point, possibly this season. We shall see. Let's see here. One more here from Tom. Any news on cable TV providers and channels to be announced soon for the regular season? I have not. I know it's March 9th, and like I said, we're 2 weeks away from today of baseball at American Family Field, and then, of course, opening day, March 26th. There will be channels from all indications that I've heard is that if you got the Brewers on a channel last year, you'll get the Brewers on a channel this year. The question becomes, when are we going to get the channel numbers? Because I know people want them, and I get it, right? You want to see them. And the only way to watch the Brewers at spring training right now is through the web broadcast that they've been doing, like today, brewers.tv, on your computer or iPad or what have you. There has not been any news on it. Again, I would be absolutely shocked if March 26th, if you wake up on March 26th and you're ready for opening day baseball and we have not had news on it, I'd be surprised. But so just hang tight. It's going to come. We're going to get, again, I would be very, very surprised if we get to opening day and we do not, and there's no announcement on that. So just know that every press release, everything the Brewers have said is that there will be an announcement closer to opening day when it comes to channels and where you can find the Brewers on those satellite providers and cable providers. So hang tight because that is coming. A couple more things wanted to talk about tonight, and feel free to keep coming in with your comments and questions. Happy to take them here as we go along. Couple of things. Let's get to who's hot and who's not at spring training. As I mentioned, Jared Koenig has struggled a little bit. If I were to pick a who's not, maybe he would be with the 15 ERA. But again, don't look at the ERA because that one inning can really do you bad. I think it's more so that he just wasn't getting the results he wanted. And when he was talking with the media, he was like, I just want to get the outs. He's like, I'm not even worried about velocity. I just want to get outs, and I'm letting up contact. And some of it is just well-placed balls and baseball luck and good baseball and good pieces of hitting. However, he wanted to see more results. He also said to the media, I thought this was interesting, and maybe we see a ramp up in more games for Jared Koenig because of this, but he said he told the Brewers he wants to be in more games. He said he doesn't like what the Brewers will do is they'll do, kind of like a sim game or a simulated game where you face your own guys. And he doesn't like doing that. He said it's just weird for him to face his own teammates. And so I think, he was doing that, and then he's getting into a game and he's not getting the results. And I would guess that's frustrating, but he's starting to get a little more results. As I mentioned yesterday, 1 inning, a strikeout, no runs. So slowly but surely he is coming into form. And I think he's going to still be a key part to this bullpen in 2026. Who's hot? Obviously I mentioned Kyle Harrison and Brandon Sproat. How about Jacob Misiorowski yesterday, who goes 3 1/3 and strikes out 6. So he recorded 10 outs and 6 of them were strikeouts. Kyle Harrison and Jacob Misiorowski yesterday combined for 14 strikeouts and 6 1/3 innings. Boy, that's a 1-2 punch in a rotation that you could see down the road. Maybe in future years, maybe next year after, you have Jacob Misiorowski as your, opening day starter, and then Kyle Harrison follow. I mean, that can happen this year, honestly. Who knows? Honestly, it makes you excited. This team has so much pitching. It's so fun. Let's see. And Jake Bauers, he's also pretty hot, I'd say. 3 home runs so far. He had one again today. He's played in seven games. He had 17 at bats, and he's gotten a hit in 9 of them. And then he has 5 walks. So he's had 22 plate appearances, and he's been on base 14 of the 22. That's really good. And when you look at the strikeouts, 5 walks to just 3 strikeouts. That's a really good walk strike ratio, obviously. Almost doubling up your strikeouts and walks. That hardly ever happens. So obviously it's spring training. Take everything with a grain of salt, but Jake Bauers is in your who's hot category right now. Andrew Vaughn as well, hitting 375 in 8 games so far this spring with a couple of home runs. And then I got to include the man who is batting right now for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic, Bryce Terang. 6 for 11 so far in the World Baseball or just with Team USA. This is Team USA, 2 exhibition games, and then the game a couple of nights ago in pool play. He is 6 for 11, 6 RBI, 4 doubles, 3 runs, no strikeouts with Team USA. I'm telling you, Bryce Terang. We talk about Jackson Chourio, who has superstar potential on the Milwaukee Brewers. Bryce Terang could be getting there. like seriously. I mean, he what he does with his glove mixed with the power we've seen, and then just how easy it looks. A lot of the times when I look at players and when I say who has a superstar potential, or you can really see it in this player, right? And I noticed with this with Jesus Madej throughout spring training. It's the ease at which their swing happens, the way it looks, the way it just looks so effortless. And Bryce Terang is one of those guys. And it clearly he's putting up the numbers, and clearly he's got the glove. And you combine everything that he's got, look out. That could be even better than we ever maybe could have thought when he was coming up. Of course, we thought, hey, you got the guys that were coming up: Terang, Frelick, Mitchell, Weimer. Obviously, Weimer hasn't as much worked out. Mitchell remains to be seen. I still think he's got a ton of potential. Maybe Bryce Terang didn't, get as maybe much attention as maybe he should have. But boy, wow, I am fascinated to see what Bryce Terang does in 2026. Look out for him. Also, Andrew Fisher, third base prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. He went 2 for 4 for Team Italy yesterday in his WBC debut, including a home run in his first ever at-bat for the World Baseball Classic. I just love how the Brewers are performing in the World Baseball Classic. It is awesome. Joey Ortiz has had some production as well. He's playing short tonight for Mexico. So right now, Terang's up and Ortiz is over there at shortstop as well. By the way, good news on Jackson Chourio. He got hit with a pitch in the exhibition game for Venezuela. He's playing for Team Venezuela along with William Contreras. He got hit in the hand in an exhibition game against the Nationals, then sat out the first couple of games for Team Venezuela, but he is back tonight. Let me just quickly check on that box score. They're up 4-0 on Nicaragua right now. But he does have a RBI. He's 0 for 2 so far tonight. But he's playing center field and batting second. So that's awesome. William Contreras has 3 at-bats. He's scored a run tonight for Team Venezuela. Again, they're up 4-0 on Nicaragua right now. They are 2-0 in pool play so far. And again, Bryce Terang is batting right now. He's about to see his 9th pitch of the at-bat. That guy, I mean, just a battler. So there you go. So that's a couple of World Baseball Classic notes. Hopefully you're enjoying that, because it's cool to see. I mean, especially like you've seen some of the stuff the Dominican Republic team has done. Abner Uribe has done really well too. 1 inning and a couple of Ks. And Bryce Terang, there you go again, down the right field line, and that's going to score a run. That's another double. Well, he's going to be out at the plate. Bregman was out at the plate. Terang just got another double. Bryce Terang now has 12 at-bats in the World Baseball for Team USA. Well, that might be a single and an advance. They might not score that as a double. But he got to second. So if it's a double, they might score it because it was down the line. They threw home. I think it was Bregman running. They got him at the plate. So they might say fielder's choice and it just go down as a single. But it would have been a double. I think either way, probably. Just looking at how long Duran had it, and then he threw home. Because it was Roman Anthony who was running, and he got a head start, so he tried to score, and he was out at the plate. Durang's now 7 for 12 with Team USA. I mean, this guy, wow. It's just so impressive. So again, superstar. But hopefully you have been superstar potential. Hopefully you have been enjoying the World Baseball Classic because it's really cool. It's high octane baseball in March. And it's like I said, especially the Dominican Republic team with the some of the antics they do and the crowds they've had in Miami, and this USA Mexico game highly attended in Houston tonight. Really cool. It's just such a cool thing that baseball does, and I just love it. So hopefully you've been gobbling it up as well. All right, last thing, and then we're going to get to let's get to a couple of questions here first. Nicholas, appreciate the kind words. Let me see here. This is from Tom. Not to pepper you with questions. Hey, that's what I'm here for. There was a huge turnover in staff this offseason. Was that by Murphy's design, or did those guys leave on their own accord? Unusual considering their success that guys would jump ship or that Murphy would clean house. It sounded like they some fresh voices maybe were needed. I think I don't know, and I don't want to speak out of turn when it comes to the details of those moves. So I don't know specifics on all of them. It would make sense to me as Ricky Weeks, of course, was the bench coach, associate manager. Remember, Ricky Weeks and Pat Murphy had their press conference together when they got introduced. That is not usual. Usually the manager is there and the bench coach just comes at some point. But I do think that it really seemed that the Brewers were setting Ricky Weeks up to be the manager in a few years, maybe after the contract that Pat Murphy signed, because he was under a 3-year deal. He was heading into the final year of his deal this year. And they clearly were going to extend him, and they did extend him a couple of weeks ago. I think the plan was kind of a succession plan. But clearly, Pat Murphy succeeded so much, 2 NL Central Division titles, 97 wins, NLCS appearance, that you can't take it out of Murph's hands. He's been so successful. So Ricky Weeks, one of two things. Maybe saw the writing on the wall there, or noticed that the field just wasn't for him and wanted to go to the front office. I don't know exactly, but I will effort to find that out. Here in the beginning of the season, I think we'll see. There might have been articles written on that by some of the guys in Arizona as well. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but you're right. I mean, when it comes to that many guys leaving now, Connor Dawson got the job in Kansas City. That's, I believe, where he's from. So that would make sense that he went there. The Brewers took a step back when it came to stolen bases last year. And I wonder if that is a reason why Julio Bourbon was reassigned within the organization. Al LaBeouf was as well. I don't know. That might have just been something simple where it just didn't want as much day-to-day there, or could not be. Just, again, speculation. So they grabbed Spencer Allen to coach first. Matt Erickson has been the infield guy and has done magic work, and he's still going to be the infield guy, but gets to be at third base. And because that associate manager type of role was left by Ricky Weeks, Jason Lane, I think, is going to kind of take that as more the bench coach. I would think he's the guy if Pat Murphy gets ejected. And I think Jason Lane would kind of take over possibly there in that scenario. So those are some of the reasons, but great thoughts when it comes to those questions, because you're right. Two things happen when you have a lot of success, right? Either one, you stay intact, or two, a lot of teams come and try to get your guys. And I know teams were probably trying to get Chris Hook in years past, and obviously he signed that extension. He's under contract, and that's really good. But I do wonder how much of that was the case. And so, maybe teams are trying to get Jason Lane, or teams are trying, who knows? And so they did some rearranging there. Either that happens, or you stay put, and keep your staff. So who knows? Maybe it was just a change of some things. But I'd have to look into that a little more. Thomas, appreciate the kind words. Thanks so much for tuning in here tonight. And stay tuned for details on what the season is going to bring here as well. Stay tuned for that because we might have some, we'll see here what we got going as far as developments for the season as a whole, and obviously on the Facebook page and on YouTube. Nick asks, is this weekly? It is. We are doing this each and every Monday at 7 o'clock Central Time. Now, we'll do this through March 23rd. Well, March 23rd, I think I'm actually going to be at the ballpark because they're going to have a home exhibition game. So we might have to, maybe we'll do, we might switch it to the Wednesday of that week and do this that night. So the biggest thing is right now it is. Next Monday, I plan to do it next Monday, the 16th. Go follow Hunter Baumgardt Sports on Facebook or, of course, the YouTube page. You'll subscribe, and when I go live, you'll know at Hunter B on air on YouTube. But this is weekly right now. But with the season almost upon us, we're going to change it up a little and maybe do some other content. And so just stay tuned because I think we're going to have probably some changes with the season coming. But we've done this weekly for about a month now. And so you can go back and watch all those at Hunter B on air on the YouTube channel. All right. So before we say goodbye for the evening, we are going to take a look at the schedule for 2026. Just a little glimpse, just a little fun glimpse, because we are less than 3 weeks from opening day. Let's look at the schedule, okay? Let's take a gander at the schedule, everybody, okay? Finally, the Brewers are having opening day at home, and I know it's a little small, but you can, for the most part, tell. Obviously, the shaded ones are the home games. The white ones are the away games. What stands out, okay? First, again, finally opening day at home, March 26th. Looking forward to that. Secondly, let me see here. What else I take away from the first month or so is how many off days. Look at all that. They're off on the 27th. They're off on the 2nd. Then they're off of like a bunch of Mondays in a row. They have 5 off days in the first 26 days. This could mean that they could play around a little bit with their rotation. And they could, because guys are going to get the amount of days off that they are going to need. So you're not, going to need 6 guys. Like someone could start seemingly the 26th, right? Opening day, 27, 28, 29, 30. And then you could start 3, 4, 5, and then you could start the second game of the Rays series already. So, and then you have an off day. So you're just really set up well to ease your pitchers in. That's actually really good. I know there's some stretches later in the season where there's not a lot of off days, and we'll get to those, but it's really good to ease your pitchers in that way. Second of all, let's see. First Cubs meeting. When do you first play the Cubs? May. You're going to play the Cubs for the first time, the 18th through the 20th on the road at Wrigley Field, the first meeting between the Brewers and the Cubs. Also something weird, they don't play an NL Central opponent till the last weekend in April when you see that series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. May 22nd through June 4th. Maybe you want to plan on hitting up a Brewer game then. There's a lot of home games between May 22nd and June 4th. They've got the series against the Dodgers, the Cardinals, then they do a quick road trip to Houston, but then come right back for a 4-gamer to start June against the Giants. And then they've got their first West Coast trip of the season, Rockies and A's. Remember, A's are in Vegas. They play the A's in Vegas. And then you've got something else to keep in mind. The 3rd through the 16th, there are no home games. They're going to Arizona, Arizona, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh before the All-Star break. 2 West Coast, the hardest stretch for the Brewers this year, in my opinion, and probably a lot of people's opinion, is going to be the last week of July through the second week of August. They've got 2 West Coast trips in 3 weeks. They go to San Francisco and Anaheim. Then they come home to face the Pirates and the Twins. Then they go back to San Diego and LA. End of July, early August. And that is not with, let me see here. There's one off day. between that Giants and Angels. But then you're in Anaheim, you're home, you're in San Diego, you're in LA without an off day. So that is clearly something to pay attention to. And then 2 Cubs series in September. Remember, the Cubs and Brewers did not play in September last year. So obviously they played in October. Bryce Terang with a sweet play, unfortunately not gloved by Bryce Harper, though. So Joey Ortiz reaches in Team USA's game right now against Mexico. Bryce Terang with a sweet play at second. Oh, fantastic. And then also in September, 5 of the 8 series are on the road. So something to keep in mind as well. So that's your schedule. I'm like, you know what? We're 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away from opening day. Might as well take a gander at that. So we did. So there you have it. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, here on this show. Michael with Terang double tonight. Yep. Terang is 7 for 12. I want to see if did they ring it up as a double? Ring it up. I don't know if that's the right term there, but probably did they score it as a double, I should say. Yes, they did. Good. I was worried that they weren't going to because the throw home, but they did. So Bryce Terang now has 5 doubles in 12 at-bats with Team USA, if you include the exhibition games. Pretty incredible. I mean, he is just rolling with Team USA. Really cool. That lineup, by the way, is wild. So there you have it. Really neat. And then Donna, appreciate the kind words as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. Good to see you viewing here. So thanks, everyone. This is a blast. And again, when I start these on Monday nights at 7 o'clock, I don't necessarily know how long they're going to go. So I just kind of, go through all the topics I have, take your comments. It's really just it's just for fun. We're having a great time talking Brewers. And the great thing is we are going to have Brewers baseball games that count really soon in the season. You talk for an hour straight. Woo. Nick says, we'll see you next week. Appreciate that, Nick. Thanks so much. Yes, we will. Monday, the 16th at 7 o'clock. You'll be filling out your brackets and talking Brewers baseball. How's that sound? Because by then we'll have a bracket to fill out. I never do too well on those. Thank you so much. Nicholas says, Terang, save some of that for the regular season. Yeah, definitely. I mean, hey, it can't be a bad thing that those guys are getting, kind of real feel baseball at this time of the year. Can't be, I gotta think it can't be a bad thing. But yeah, so USA 2-0 so far. We'll see if they can continue and see how far they go in the WBC. Thanks everybody for watching. Again, if you missed any part of it, if you're just tuning in and you're like, what is going on here? Oh, they gave that error to Bryce Terang. Oh, it was a grounder to second, and oh, wow, that's a tough play. And then Harper, it hit his glove, I think. And then they gave the error to Bryce Terang. Oh, man. Anyway, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can go back on the YouTube page at Hunter B on Air. And make sure to subscribe so you always know when we're going live. But we'll be live again next Monday at 7 o'clock. And hopefully I'll have some more information about maybe what we'll do during the regular season and how you can interact here. And we'll have some live shows then and continue this because it's fun. So I'm having a blast. Hopefully you are too. And follow me on all socials for all Brewers content at Hunter B on Air. And then also quick plug, The Huddle, Fox Sports Radio, Wisconsin, with our fantastic guys, Drew, Billy, and Armin. They're on every weekday morning, 5 to 8 a.m., Fox Sports 920 in Milwaukee and Fox Sports 1070 in Madison. I join them every Thursday at 7 a.m. To discuss all things Brewers. So every Thursday, 7 a.m. with those guys. And again, iHeartRadio app, search Fox Sports 920 or Fox Sports 1070. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching. It's been a wonderful evening talking Brewers with you. We even had some daylight in the beginning of the show, too, here, because that's awesome that we have sprung forward. Hopefully you changed all your clocks, and soon enough, we'll be springing into American Family Field to watch some Brewers baseball. Thanks so much for watching tonight. Appreciate it. It's been